So there is an alternative to reacting to strong emotions, and that is to respond to the strong emotions. Let me try to explain. So here is your child. They've filled up with strong emotions. They've overwhelmed them. They've got some coping strategies to deal with this kind of reptile fear, anger, disappointment, insecurity. Inadequate. They see you. They send it your way. Provocative question, provocative statement, provocative action. This time, you feel it, but you think, hang on, I'm going to stay human. I'm going to respond to their provocation. I will answer their question. I will respond to their statement. I will respond to their action, but I'll do it with no strong emotion. In this situation, you want to leave the emotion with them. This is my business. But it's your problem. And in this context, what you do is you put up a brick wall. And when they provoke you, this brick wall to the emotion leaves it on their side. And the brick walls, a good way of making this brick wall is what we talked about in chapter 9, which is the boundary. Because often a provocation comes with a broken boundary. So a really strong boundary where it's my business but it's your problem. Take what you want, then pay for it, the shopkeeper saying. You can be provocative, that's okay, and the response is whatever we come up with. The broken record is a very powerful way of not getting involved in someone else's problem. To simply repeat the answer when you're being provoked. So if your child is, like, I really want to go down to the park right now, and if the answer is no, say, oh, sorry, honey, you can't go. Oh, but I really want to go. Yeah, no, you can't go. But like, Mary's dad's letting her go. Yeah, look, I hear you, but you can't go. Oh, why can't I go? You never let me do anything. Well, we can talk about that, but you can't go right now. Oh, why are you so old-fashioned? Well, whatever that might be, you can't go. We can talk about it if you want, but you can't go. So you see how, the child is trying to engage you in a whole bunch of different ways. You simply repeat the answer, offering the opportunity to talk about it if they want, but the boundary is unbreakable. Now, what's the most likely thing to happen if when your child is feeling this way and they've provoked you and you don't react? In the end, they may learn new coping. This is our wish, that by leaving it with them, they have to solve it for themselves. That is typically not their first response. If you remember that idea of the child with a snake at their feet, we would wish them to learn new coping to deal with that problem. But what's the more likely thing? They're going to initially try to break out. What's most likely to happen when we do this is they will escalate. They'll try to break down that barrier. They'll try to break down the wall. And if under their sustained attack you do crumble and you do react, then escalate. You may have just taught them to escalate. If by escalating you then do what they want, you've just taught them to escalate. Now, of course, if your brick wall crumbles, the event doesn't matter. It's what happens next that matters. if your brick wall falls, what you need to do is get the mortar out, get some new bricks, rebuild the wall, reinforce it, apologise for not being consistent, in preparation for future escalation. But this is also where this idea of unity comes in, because a double brick wall is stronger than a single brick wall. A mother and a father together, united, it's harder to break down that wall. Or a triple brick wall. Us. You know, honey, we've talked about the rules and the values. You know, we all agreed we want to be safe. We all agreed we want to feel cared for. We all agree we want peace. Yellows go outside, so you know what to do. Us. Sometimes I am involved in the creation of these brick walls as their therapist, as their psychiatrist. All the adults in their life agree. Sometimes you involve the school. Sometimes you involve society's values, the law. You know, honey, you're 13 years old, you can't drink. You're 16-year-old, you can't smoke marijuana in our house, or whatever it is that as a family you've decided upon. The more adults you have backing you up, agreeing to the boundary, the easier it is to not have a crumbled brick wall. If you're a single parent, if you're isolated, if you feel alone, it's going to be so much harder to stand up to the attacks. So you need people on your side. And the family approach of we agree upon the values, this is vital. So responding to strong emotions leaves it as their problem. They may learn new coping. Watch out for escalation. This is what we often do with strong emotions. And it's usually helpful, or it's hopefully helpful. Hopefully they'll learn new coping. You might be wasting your breath. One of the things about a provocation is the point may be to try to get you engaged in a conversation, in a combative conversation. So by even answering them, you may be entering the combat. So one thing to watch out for is sometimes the purpose of it is to make you the bad one. So even answering a question or responding to their statement or responding to their action, you might be wasting your breath. Do you really need to answer, can you have a second ice cream? Do you really need to give that answer? Don't they know? No one gets 2 ice creams. When they accuse you, you don't love me, do you really have to respond to that and say, well, honey, that's not true, I do love you? Haven't they heard you say, I love you 1,000 times? Do you really need, when they hit their sibling, to say, such and such, don't hit? Don't they know? I mean, they know the boundary. They know they don't hit. So by telling them don't hit, you're probably wasting your breath. And potentially, you're just engaging in a combative interaction. So there's an alternative to responding, and that is reflecting, and that is in the next video.